Okay, some context. I'm a 24-year-old guy, and this happened to me about 6 months ago. I live in a rather large apartment complex, one that's very open and social. People are always outside waving to each other, having drinks and barbecues and stuff like that. It's quite a safe place, with people looking out for each other all the time, and if anything happens, everyone's usually in the know. Anyway, I live at the higher part of my building, very close to the roof. In fact, there's a door near my place next to some stairs leading up to it, so it isn't that hard to get up there. I've personally only been up there once, and after this, I don't plan on going up there alone. It was about 8 p.m. that night, and I was on my computer checking my email, as well as just relaxing and browsing different sites. At that moment, my internet decided to up and shit itself. Now, this is pretty common, as I use the building's Wi-Fi and it does this at certain points. This would be okay, but I was reading about 3 important emails and couldn't check the other 2 at the time because I hadn't opened any other tabs. So I decided to head outside, around to another building at a friend's house whom I know. They're really nice about letting me use their internet when things like this happen. So I'm getting up to leave my place, and I get out into the hallway, when I hear a thump above on the roof. This didn't surprise me much. I thought it was probably someone just up there drinking or hanging out. Sometimes that kind of thing happens. I get to the bottom of the building, and as I'm leaving, I hear a loud rattle from the roof. I look up, but I don't see anything. I brush it off at first as some random person on the roof who fell or something like that, and I continue walking. A few minutes later, I'm nearing my friend's building, and I hear a nearby bush shake. I'm getting a little weirded out at this point, but I dismiss it as a cat or a lizard moving around in the bush and just keep walking. I arrive at my friend's place, and sit down on the curb near the entrance. I pull out my phone, unlock it, and go to my email and continue where I left off. But a few minutes into reading it, I hear another rattle, just like the one at my building, only now it's here. I'm getting a bad feeling about this, but I keep telling myself that it must be nothing. After about 5 minutes, I happen to look up at the roof, and I get startled for a minute. There's a guy peering down at me, crouching. I figure he's just enjoying the view of the place and just happened to be looking at me for the moment. I shine the light from my phone at him, and I can make out more features. He's wearing tattered pants, a black hoodie, and a mask. One of those white masks you buy at a party store, only on the front is drawn a really large smile. This creeped me the fuck out for a moment, but again, I give myself an excuse and try to brush it off. I laugh nervously at the guy and just go back to reading. I look up a few minutes later, and the guy is sticking his head over even more. I'm starting to get a bit scared now. This is beginning to feel like some sort of horror story. It was just me and this guy out there, and I really didn't know what the fuck he wanted. So I decided to get up and just walk back to my place. I get back with no trouble, and start laughing by the time I get there, thinking about how silly I was. The guy was probably just some prankster trying to scare me or something. So I'm in a good mood walking to the entrance, and I look up and immediately feel the good mood drain away. That same fucking guy is there, only now he's on my roof, in the same creepy manner staring down at me. I figure he must have run over when I left and gotten on top of the roof before I got there. So I'm just standing there, frozen for a moment, and this guy tilts his head as if he's wondering what's wrong. I quickly head inside and just try to forget about it, going to my place and locking my door as fast as I can. The internet is working now anyway. So later that night, I decide to go to sleep, and I lay in my bed for a while. Finally, I start getting sleepy and I shut my eyes. A little while later, I hear tapping on my window near my balcony, so I get up to investigate the noise. I go to my balcony's glass door, pull back the curtain, and immediately scream. The guy, who I'll call the roof man for obvious reasons, is fucking hanging from the roof and staring at me from upside down. He tilts his head and I'm standing there frozen, wondering where the fuck this psychopath came from. What he does next frightens me even more. He climbs down onto my balcony and knocks on my glass door like he wants in. When I don't comply, he starts banging lightly. This process escalates until he rams into the glass full force, cracking it. By this time, I'm scrambling up and unlocking my door to get the fuck out of there. I open the door and go out quickly as I hear the glass shatter behind me. I shut the door and run down the hall and bang on a neighbor's door. I hear my neighbor come to answer and look back at my place down the hall. I see that my door is open and the roof man peeks out. At this moment, my neighbor answers and looks at me worried. I point down the hall and he looks. The roof man is just standing there, staring us down. He suddenly breaks into a sprint, running at us crazily. My neighbor pulls me into his place quickly and closes the door. After a couple of seconds, we feel a loud banging on the door, much louder than my banging earlier. We look out the peephole, and he's relentlessly ramming against it. The door holds up though, and after a while he just gives up and runs off. We called the cops and they searched the complex for him, but he wasn't there. I don't know what scares me more, that horrific night, or knowing he's still out there, and he could do that to me again or potentially someone else. My neighbor kindly allowed me to stay at his place for a while, saying he understood and that if something like that happened again, he'd have my back. I can't thank him enough. So now, here I sit, still in my neighbor's place, relaxing and watching TV. I haven't seen that psychopath since that night 6 months ago. Thank God. My mom and brothers were going to visit some family in California for a few days during the summer. They packed up and left very early in the morning, around 5 a.m. Dad and I stayed behind since I had a job now, and Dad couldn't take time off from work either. We lived in a small 3-bedroom apartment then. A few hours after my mom and brothers left, my dad had gone for work. I got up from bed and started choosing my outfit for work that day. I hopped in the shower as usual. As I was finishing rinsing off, I hear my small chihuahua bark her head off like I've never heard her before. She's actually a pretty calm and lazy chihuahua, so my always paranoid self started listening and shut off the water. I heard some sort of scratching, and my dog still barking like crazy and growling. I get off the shower and grab my towel to dry off, but I of course didn't bring any clothes into the bathroom with me. All of a sudden, I hear the sliding door swing open, and my dog is barking even crazier than ever before. I know now that someone had been trying to break in and had been successful. They were now inside my apartment. The door to my bedroom is directly across from the bathroom. I'm helpless and clothless in my bathroom with my phone in my room, so as I listen in to someone walking around in the living room, I open the bathroom door and run across to my bedroom. And while I open the door, I hear someone running, and my dog is now beside my feet. I try to grab her to come into the room with me, but she runs away, probably to bark some more at the intruder. I yell to get out of my house and that the police are on the way, but they just laugh. I'm in my bedroom locked in. My window has always been jammed, so I can't escape. I quickly call 911 and change while I'm explaining I'm locked in my bedroom and someone is in my apartment. I text my dad too while on the line. I'm still worried about my dog, and it's been quiet for a while, so I look under my door, but see no one there. I crack the door open just a bit, hoping they got scared and ran off. Nope. My bedroom door can somewhat see into an area of the living room. The guy is just sitting on our couch looking straight at me. He's in a hoodie, and the strings are pulled tight around the hood so that I can't see his face. They get up, and my dog goes nuts and tries to bite him. When I see him get up, I get scared and close my door again. I hear as he kicks her, and she starts crying and runs over to my bedroom door. I can see her little paws under the door, but I'm too scared to open it with the possibility that he's right there. I'm crying by now, scared about my dog, but I know I can't open that door. The operator is still on the phone with me, and tells me a cop is now there and coming up to my apartment. The dude comes up to my door and knocks on it softly. Then a few seconds later, I hear my front door open and shut. A minute later, there are loud knocks at the front door, and the operator tells me to go open it. I try to refuse because I feel that they're still out there hiding, but the operator insists that they're probably long gone by now. I run out the front door, open it, and the cop is there. I explain what happened, and he just looks at me like he's bored. He tells me to look around the complex and to lock my doors. He didn't even bother to search my apartment to make sure they weren't still there. The cop leaves, and I try to be brave and look through my apartment. When I get to my brother's rooms, the window is wide open, and the curtains are moving. They had still been in here, hiding the whole time. This means they were trying to lure me out when they opened and closed my front door, but the cop got there shortly after, and I'm sure that's why they escaped. I tell my dad everything, and he gets there shortly after. He's mad that law enforcement didn't do their job properly. And by the way, that cop never came back. My dad installed a bunch of locks everywhere, and while he's there, I get ready to go to work. As I walk out of my front door to go to my car, my neighbor upstairs is standing at the top of the stairs and stares at me. And in that moment, I realize it was him. He stares at me the whole time I'm walking, and even smiles. He was wearing that same hoodie. I texted my dad to tell him I knew who it was. I don't know what happened, but my dad is a pretty scary guy. About a week later, I see him and his girlfriend moving out. I started leasing a condo in 2010 and lived there for roughly 4 years. To understand the story, I have to explain the location and layout of my condo. First and foremost, in the area I was in, my condo was considered a carriage house or a back house. Basically, that means my unit was detached from all the other units within the small condominium complex. My unit also sat above the complex's water heater and a very small laundry facility. Therefore, I was on the second floor. In short, my condo was basically comparable to living in a very small house that's on the second floor, so I had no one above me, beside me, or below me. It was a freestanding unit, and if I wanted to visit my neighbor's units, I had to walk down my stairs and go through a gate. My condo was only accessible through the alley, meaning you couldn't even get to or inside my unit without being there. The alley is where all tenants facing north on my street parked, and all tenants facing south on the street behind us parked. My unit had one singular set of stairs, which led straight up to a small little landing faux balcony, and then of course the entrance to my unit. There was only one singular entrance or exit, and no additional balconies. My unit had both a wooden door with a bottom lock and deadbolt, as well as a screen door that also had a lock. The screen door was total shit, because even if the screen door was locked, you could still open the screen door if you pulled hard enough. Now that we have that out of the way, I had been living in this condo for about 2 years when this occurred, and never experienced anything remotely similar prior to or after the event. One night, I go outside to my little landing to smoke a cigarette. I know, blah blah, so bad for me. I've since quit, so no comments please. It's nighttime, therefore it's dark outside, but our alley is pretty lit up, so I can see everything pretty well. I'm screwing around on my phone, leaning over the railing, and I look down into the alley. I see this youngish guy walking down the alley near my unit. No big deal. Occasionally there would be random people that walked in our alley from the bus stop, but they never just stopped and stared. They continued on, and I had never felt threatened or concerned, as I lived in a pretty prestigious area. However, this guy stops abruptly and just stares at me. I mean, the dude literally just stops dead in his tracks, doesn't say a single word, and just stares straight up at me. At this point, we were making eye contact. I can't explain why or how I felt the way I did when we made eye contact, and to this day I had never felt the same emotions that came over me, but I could just sense that he was evil, and no less than 10 feet away. His eyes had zero emotion. It looked as if he was staring at me like a lion would its prey before the kill. I had never seen this man, nor interacted with this man in my life. And again, I'd just like to reiterate, I don't know why and I don't know how, but somehow I just knew that he was bad news. After making eye contact, my heart was beating rapidly, so I put out my cigarette and went inside. I didn't want to make it seem extremely obvious because I didn't know his intentions. I locked my screen door, locked my big wooden door, and called one of my neighbors to see if he could go check out what this dude was doing. The neighbor answers but says, "I'm not home right now, but I'll be pulling down the alley in a couple of minutes so I can see if he's still there." At this point, I'm standing in my kitchen, which is about 20 feet from the door, and I start to hear footsteps on my stairs. Then I hear the screen door attempting to be opened, and I know it's him. I wasn't expecting anyone else that evening. I soon found out that when shit goes down and fight or flight is supposed to kick in, I apparently freeze. No grabbing a knife for me, so needless to say, if anything happens in the future, I'm pretty screwed. At this point, I don't know how long it's been from a time standpoint, but honestly, time does stand still when you're in fear. All I know is this man has gotten my screen door open, and who knows what's next. As I'm preparing for the worst, I can hear my savior neighbor screaming, "What the fuck are you doing?" The man, according to savior neighbor, flew down the stairs and booked it through the alley. Savior neighbor tried to catch up, but he was also a bit older. I don't know what he was going to do, or what would have happened that evening if my neighbor hadn't come home, but I'm honestly so very lucky he was already on his way back. I lived in that condo for another 1.5 years, and never saw that man again. But please, Lord, let us never meet. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave feedback in the comments below, as well as perhaps like, share, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you have a personal story that you'd like to submit, or you'd like to just send me a message, links to all of my social media will be in the description for the video below. This includes my Gmail, Twitter, and Facebook accounts. Go ahead and send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the tagline what the theme of the story is, if it has any, the name of the story, and how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. If you're curious at all about the music used in this video, the music is always listed in the description below, in the order which it appears. I also have links to the artists and list the tracks by name, just in case you want to find more of their work. Last but not least, if you have any criticism, please be sure to leave it in the comments below, as I'm always looking for new ways to improve the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.